Hello and welcome to video 2. Here I would like to explain some of my favorite points in more detail. Below this video, you will find a link to a beautiful graphic which provides a small overview of most acupuncture points. This is two-part. On one side, you see the illustration, and on the other side, which is directly on it, these points are explained. So I would like to talk about a few points. First of all, many people ask, what is the 0 point? The 0 point is the so-called migraine piercing. It is well explained what it does. You can take a look and read about it. There are only 2 points that I always like to explain in more detail, namely, even 3 or 4. Let's see. I would like to start with the point de Jerome. The reason is that most people, when they receive the 4 acupuncture needles for the shoulder muscles that I explained in video 1, there is 1 point included. That is the so-called point de Jerome. And for the point de Jerome, you can read what it is for. Specifically, it is one of the points for falling asleep and staying asleep disorders. That is, of course, self-explanatory. But then there is an important sentence at the end. It says that the point de Jerome has a harmonizing effect on the autonomic system. And that is a very important sentence, by the way. In parentheses, it mentions pulse, blood pressure, and temperature. And this is a very important sentence that I would like to explain to you in more detail. Because for those who are not working in the medical field, the sentence might sound too harmless, but it is very, very important. So what does the phrase vegetatively harmonized mean? I need to take a small step back into medicine and first explain to you what the autonomic nervous system is and what exactly it does in our body. First of all, the overarching term in our body is the autonomic nervous system. Subordinate to it are 3 very, very important nervous systems. Most people have heard of the so-called sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. There is a 3rd nervous system, the so-called enteric nervous system. The enteric nervous system is responsible for organ and gut function in our body. Organ and gut function is self-explanatory. Irritable bowel syndrome, for example, would be such a problem, or issues with the control of organs. I'll leave out the enteric nervous system because it's self-explanatory. So that leaves the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. I like to show it this way because it makes it easier to understand. The sympathetic nervous system is active whenever we are under stress, in a dangerous situation, or in an emergency. So everything active. While the parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for rest, relaxation, and sleep, logically, these 2 nervous systems can never work simultaneously. You can't be awake and asleep at the same time, except maybe if you're beamed, but under normal circumstances, that's usually not possible. Normally, you are either awake or asleep, stressed or relaxed. Both at the same time don't work in the body like that. Why is it important? Our body needs these 2 programs because each of these programs requires its own hormones, organs, and substrates. I'll start by explaining the sympathetic nervous system. Imagine that whenever you are in the sympathetic nervous system, your body releases stress hormones. 1,000, in the most extreme case, at the very top, it is adrenaline. By the way, in the scientific literature, the sympathetic nervous system is also referred to as fight or flight. This is because it is a small remnant from our prehistoric times. When early humans were walking across the meadow and a predator appeared, they had to either flee or fight. What do I need for that? I need strength, performance, endurance, pain, insensitivity. And if the beast might have caught me, I need something that makes me insensitive to pain. Today, the stress hormone adrenaline still gives me that. Anyone who has ever had a car accident or an emergency situation knows this, so it's ranked very high. When the sympathetic nervous system is active, the body releases adrenaline. Hopefully, we don't have accidents every day. What we do have more often is stress. Also, it's situated a bit lower, in the sympathetic nervous system. You have to imagine it like a scale. When one side goes up, the other goes down. That's where terms like calm down and you're balanced come from. So adrenaline is way up. A little further down in everyday stress, the body releases the stress hormone cortisol. These stress hormones are always important and good. When I need it, it's obviously great. As I said, if I have an accident, it's really great if I don't feel any pain due to adrenaline. That also affects something in our body. Among other things, it influences blood sugar levels, pulse, and blood pressure. All of this is affected by whether I need to flee or fight, or if I am deeply relaxed. And the problem is, as I said, when I need it, it's good. But if I have too much of it in my blood and it's constantly in my blood and I don't break down stress hormones, this could be a cause, among other things, for stress-related illnesses such as burnout, panic attack, insomnia, muscle tension, gastrointestinal problems, headaches, lying in bed at night, unable to sleep, clenching, grinding, being irritable, being stressed, always being on edge. This naturally happens because I am full of these stress hormones. As an example, I always say, if someone almost had a car accident on their way to the studio, they are naturally on adrenaline. And if I then say, try to lie down and sleep, they will quickly realize that you can't sleep on adrenaline. And when I'm stressed all day, I need my time in the evening to wind down. That means I need to break down the stress hormones. How do you break down stress hormones in the body? You do that by activating the parasympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic activities would be, for example, sport in quotes, because sport, when it's adrenaline, performance sport, brings more adrenaline. So more accurately, it would be movement, like taking a walk, endurance, light endurance training to clear your head. What else would be paradise? Sleeping. What do stressed people usually do very poorly? Yoga, meditation, vacation. Anything that relaxes you and calms you down helps reduce stress hormones. Unfortunately, most of us do this too little. I always say we are stressed for 20 hours, then sleep for 4 hours, and then stressed for another 20 hours, and that can't work in the long run. And that's exactly why it's important to take a break. The Point de Jérôme has a harmonizing effect here. If I place the needle unilaterally at the beginning, as I explained in video 1, you will have roughly 50% of the effect. Most people notice, which is why I like to use them naturally, not this calmness at first. Although some also sit here, and when I have given the lecture, their eyes slowly started to close and they said, "Can you speak slowly? I can't follow you anymore." Yes, 2001, because sometimes you get tired, but that's rather rare. Most people notice the muscular relaxation. That's why I like to use it here as well. If you now get the needle from me and say, "Hey, what you're talking about, I absolutely have to test it," feel free to let me know. I will make the adjustment. You will have 50%, 100% of the effect and the full potential. As I said, the Point de Jérôme has a somewhat harmonizing effect. It brings a bit of balance to the two nervous systems. What it obviously can't do is change life circumstances. My sleep disorder wasn't really due to that. My kids slept well, but I always like to tell this joke. My sleep disorder is Liv and she is 2 years old. Of course, she hasn't been sleeping, but fundamentally, if your child is your sleep disorder, this won't help at all. But just coming to rest in the evening, not being able to switch off, it can help very well with that. As a positive side effect, the Point de Jérôme also relaxes the muscles. As I said, with one needle, you have 50% of the full potential. Only with the second side do you get 100%. Then there is a second point that I want to explain. It is located on this small valley area in the explanation above, and it is called the Shenmen. The Shenmen is the point for psychological balance. It helps with anxiety, panic attacks, irritability, general pain relief, and has anti-inflammatory properties. These 2 points, the Point de Jérôme and the Shenmen, complement each other and enhance each other, creating a superb symbiosis. For me as an outsider, it's always very difficult to say which one is better for you because these 2 points are extremely similar. But roughly speaking, pointic rum muscles and Shenmen are more about the psychological components. Now, some of you might be asking, how can this help with a panic attack? It's a very simple principle, which is exactly why I'm giving this lecture. You can't be both at the same time. A panic attack is always the sympathetic nervous system. What do I want to achieve when I hyperventilate and have a panic attack? I want to activate the parasympathetic nervous system and relax. So what do? For example, you breathe into a bag of 2001. This way you inhale carbon dioxide, minimize the oxygen content, which makes you slightly sleepy. And when I get sleepy, the parasympathetic nervous system becomes active. It's also called regeneration and digestion, which is why you feel tired after eating. It's equated with sleeping. So through this reduction of oxygen, the parasympathetic nervous system ramps up, then the stress has to go down, and I automatically come out of this panic attack because I can't be in both states at the same time. Another example that might be understandable for those who have never had a panic attack, if you've had a stressful workday and luckily have a nice massage appointment today, you lie down on the massage table, and then the masseur starts massaging your back. And if you can relax, most people lie down on the couch and fall asleep within 20 minutes. Why? Because when you stimulate these nervous systems, whether it's the hands, feet, or back, the parasympathetic nervous system becomes active and stress levels decrease. You will become increasingly tired, more relaxed, and you might even start to doze off. And when you are just about to fall asleep, there is one thing you can never have. That is a panic attack, because you can't be both at the same time. Now, of course, there are those who say, yes, I can. I know that twitching just before falling asleep, but then you are so close to falling asleep, then you quickly switch to the sympathetic nervous system, and then you calm down again. Both can't happen at the same time. By the way, a little tip, I will also link it down here below, or 2001. There are acupressure mats if you want to try them out with this massage effect. These yantra mats and acupressure mats, as they are also called, are available on Amazon. They start at 17, go up to 160. It's basically always the same no matter what prices you pay. At first, it might be a bit uncomfortable, but over time, as you lie on it, it becomes very relaxing. You notice this feeling as you get sleepier and sleepier while lying on it. I can only recommend it. So now maybe I'll briefly explain 1 or 2 points, very briefly, always explaining the thyroid point. The thyroid point is often asked about, also for weight loss. I'm not a fan of it at all. When it comes to quitting smoking or losing weight, I'm not a fan of using acupuncture because there are simply too many factors involved. I can explain it well just with smoking alone. I can reduce the physical craving a bit, but I can't change the habit, the mindset. That's not possible. Getting up in the morning, coffee, cigarette, I can't change that. It's similar with eating. I might be able to stimulate the organs. The question is the thyroid the problem? But I can't change my eating habits, like having McDonald's 3 times a day or a bag of chips and a bar of chocolate in the evening. I can't change that. That's obviously clear. So the thyroid point can be used for stimulation, but be careful. I prefer to start with needles for a simple reason. If it's not known whether, for example, Hashimoto's disease is present, it could end badly. Why? If I stimulate the thyroid, there could be a risk with Hashimoto's because it is an autoimmune disease that the body might start producing more antibodies and destroy itself even faster. By the way, I can only stimulate what is still there. If the thyroid gland is no longer present, it obviously doesn't work. Well, that's the most important part. The other points are self-explanatory. All right, I wanted to mention the depression point. The depression point is actually a serotonin point. The problem with depression is that not every depression is due to a serotonin deficiency. It can also be caused by trauma, stress, as mentioned, these stress hormones. Personally, I am more of a fan of Shenman and Pointe de Jerome. I quite like testing for depression with acupuncture needles, simply because it helps people see if it works. Secondly, there could be an initial aggravation at each point. Anyone who has ever gone for a massage knows that the muscles hurt more the next day, and with depression, that would be disastrous. That's why I prefer to use needles. Then, if it should turn around 2001, that would be a maximum of 1 week. 2, that's not so bad, but I don't know how depressed the person is, so I'd rather be cautious. If you can remove the needle, that's good. If you notice the needle feels good, you can come directly with the needle, get it pierced, and then you have surpassed the initial adjustment phase. But yes, generally a serotonin deficiency is rarely the problem. That's why I personally prefer Shenman and/or Jerome, mostly the combination, which by the way are both bilateral, 2001. I have 2 brain hemispheres here as I explained. If I have knee pain, I only treat the right side. For headaches, always only one side. If I have it on both sides, I treat both. And of course, allergies. Stress and sleep issues are not one-sided. Accordingly, I always treat both sides of the brain. So, that was the brief explanation in 12 minutes covering the most important points. If you have any questions, contact us via our WhatsApp chat here in the app. Otherwise, take a look here where most of the points are explained. I had downloaded them below as mentioned, and then I look forward to seeing you soon in the third video.